Thanks,
Yes,
Dr. Harshal. I'll start off on my talk and how is new technology helping us with toric IOLs. Of course, many of us are already doing toric IOLs and more people will be doing. So we all understand that this is the era of laser precision in everything. And to get perfect results with toric IOLs, of course, several aspects need to be looked at. And we've had some excellent talks so far on how we can do that. So what are the limiting factors for quality outcomes with toric IOLs? I think first and foremost, measuring your astigmatism right. So unless you have the right tools to measure your astigmatism, the magnitude and the axis of astigmatism, there is no point going further from that. Perfect calculation and planning, as perfect as you can. Measuring your surgically induced astigmatism, although this is becoming less and less important if you're using an incision size which is 2.2 or less. Transcription errors, and believe me, they are not uncommon because sometimes you note down the K readings and then your assistant puts them into the formula and then he measures and then he transmits it to the company which is supplying the lens. There are several steps where you can have errors in transcription right till the end. I remember in my early days we had once two toric IOL patients on the same day. Both were of the same power but different toricity, and because they were both 22.5, one was a T3 and one was a T5. By mistake, the assistant handed us, and they were still new at that time. This was in the first year that we were doing toric IOLs, and the guy who was handing me the lens did not know the importance. He just saw the 22.5 and toric, and he says, we only do few torics, so he just picked it up. And we picked up the mistake after we had operated the first patient. We ended up putting a T3 in a patient who needed a T5. And so the second case was aborted, but the first one managed to get away because his astigmatism was not fully corrected, but we didn't pursue it further. So it is possible to get such errors as well, and one has to be careful all the way through. Then corneal marking, we all understand, is very, very important. And believe me, corneal marking can go wrong. We've all been discussing how it can go wrong, and there is a lot of scope for errors if you are not, again, very meticulous with what you are doing. And then, of course, implantation on the intended axis on which is totally dependent on your corneal marking. So going on, then unless you are doing your outcomes analysis and you're just blindly operating and then forgetting about your patients, you will not know whether you're doing a good job or not. So all these have a role to play. And now coming to first of these, which is the keratometry, I think we all know that there are so many of our manual keratometers and the other keratometers. They all work well, but let's see what are the limitations. So if you are using one of the manual keratometers, they are extremely good when it comes to measuring the power difference. So the magnitude of astigmatism, they can all pick up quite well. But if you're trying to look for an accurate steep meridian, they will not be very, very accurate. So for the steep meridian, I would not trust the manual keratometers. When it comes to corneal topography, you have excellent measurement of the steep axis of the cornea, the steep meridian, but they are not good for the magnitude of astigmatism at all. So you could again go wrong drastically if you're using this for your magnitude. So essentially, these are two different devices which are giving different. What is the one thing which will give you the best measurements? I think today, if you're using one of the optical biometers which has high density keratometry, and some of the newer keratin biometers have even more advanced corneal measurements, they are pretty accurate. Almost all good optical biometers have more or less very accurate keratometry. Only in rare instances will you need to fall back on topography for the magnitude of astigmatism. The Lenstar comes with a T-cone device which I use, and some of the others come as well. So for me, what we are doing today for our toric patients is that we use the Lenstar, and I have no financial interest, but I've been using this for several years now, and I'm happy with it. I have tried out the other new biometers as well. They are pretty good. The Tommy one is nice. The IOLmaster is very good, and most of them come with good software now. We also use the toric planner, which I'll just show you, and then we use the image guidance system, the Virion, which has again transformed the way we do our toric IOLs, and anybody who has a fair volume of toric surgery should consider moving on to this. Saves a lot of time, saves a lot of effort, and gives you accuracy which you cannot get with the manual systems at all. And I'll tell you why. So the T-cone platform has this special clip-on cup, which is basically for the Placido topography, in addition to the 32-point keratometry which comes inbuilt. So you have two ways to measure the cornea's astigmatism. This is the topographer, and then you have, of course, the regular keratometry, and then you can transmit all the data from this to the toric planner, which is on the Lenstar itself. And you can then play around with the position of the lens, your main incision, and as you move the main incision around over there, You can see the software predict right here at the bottom how much will be your residual astigmatism. So you can, it's almost like a dial, you just twist it and leave it where it shows your induced astigmatism as 0, and that will be the right implantation axis. So it's quite simple and quite easy to use, very intuitive, and I really enjoy using this. It can give you 2-3 options of which models of lenses to use, where to place your incision, and still get a close to 0 astigmatism. Sometimes if we have a T4 in stock and we don't have a T3, and we are still trying to place a lens and we can't order one for shortage of time, we can sometimes find the other axis by just rotating our incisions and everything and trying to follow that. Now, once that is done, you can use the Virion image guidance system, which basically measures in the OPD itself, and it captures a good high resolution picture, which is transmitted either through LAN or through Bluetooth to your microscope. And once you're in the OT, you can carry these printouts. These are the Lenstar printouts, which come with the inbuilt several calculators. They come with the Abulafia-Koch calculator, which takes into account the posterior corneal astigmatism. Also the Barrett's toric calculator. So both are now integrated into these machines, and they can give you very good measurements. And once that is done, so I think it's very, very important today to use, since almost all IOL manufacturers are now integrating the nomograms for posterior corneal astigmatism into their systems. I think there's not much to worry now, but the Barrett's toric calculator is one of the best in my hands and available free online as well. So once all that is done, you can then have these printouts from the Virion. I won't go into the details. Now, limitations of manual marking. Since accurate keratometry is the basis of all calculations, accurate calculations and toric planning is even more dependent on what we are doing. So when marking, in the best of hands, as we were talking and she was just mentioning, we can go wrong by 5 or 10 degrees. Now, going wrong by just 10 degrees will give you 30% effect of your toric lens will be gone. Now, once you've marked that and you go to the OT and you make the patient lie down, and then you further mark your implantation axis, suppose you go wrong by another 5 or 10 degrees, you are off by 15 degrees. So maybe half the effect of your toric lens is gone. And if you're lucky, it's wrong on the opposite side, then you'll probably end up correcting it. But as Dr. Partha said, it's very forgiving. So even if you go wrong, you at best what may happen is you won't get the full effect. You might just get like 20-30% less, but you won't have a gross error. So there's nothing wrong in going wrong a little bit, but you won't get the full correction as you're aiming to achieve. Then the marks may smudge, they may spread, they may disappear. And if you're using a pen to mark, sometimes it's as wide as 10 degrees, cannot be very accurate. And the final marking under the microscope is also quite dependent on your pre-op marks. So if your pre-op marks are wrong in the OPD, your final marks under the microscope will also be wrong. So let's see how the image guidance system works. And we've been using it for about 5-6 years now. It really has helped us. You can do it basically takes into account the limbal vessels when registering, and you're able to get a very nice marking, which can be used for your incision placement as well as for your surgery. So I will not take you through the full surgery, but you can place your incisions using these marks, which the Virion overlay system. So basically, for those who haven't used it or still don't know about it, you can get this display into the surgeon's field on the microscope into one of the eyepieces, so that it is basically an overlay, and it gives you very good rhexis marking followed by your incision marking as well as your IOL placement. So once you've done that, you can go on with the surgery, and at the time of lens implantation, you could use this for implanting your lens. So just watch now. We have implanted the lens, and we can just orient it along the axis being showed by the Virion. Now let's see, it works beautifully well, but then every device comes with limitations. So now let's see what happens sometimes with Virion. It happens maybe in 1 out of 100 cases, but if you'll just observe here, just watch. What we've done is that when we registered the patient, we had put these ink marks where the Virion showed the implantation axis. And towards the end of surgery, when we are implanting the lens, the Virion is showing us the marks almost 10 degrees away. Now, this happens mostly because you may have conjunctival bleeds, you may have chemosis, and sometimes the Virion starts reading the landmarks wrongly. So we should not trust it completely, and I've found a way of how you should do it. So when we do the registration, as the first thing, we immediately put a mark on the point where the Virion is showing. Today, I don't use the pen at all. We use a 26 gauge needle, which has been marked with ink. And now these are check marks which will help you later in the surgery. Suppose at the end of surgery, the Virion is showing you again a wrong position, but you have these check marks which will allow you to implant the lens at the right place. Happens only very rarely, but this is like an insurance policy. Takes only 1 or 2 seconds extra to operate. So also the Virion does outcomes analysis. I won't go into details, but it'll give you SIA follow-ups for the patient, and you can monitor your outcomes. And this is constantly evolving. We have more technology which is available for those people who are not using. In fact, Graham Barrett has come out with a very nice app called ToricCam, which can be used also for marking the eyes with for the preoperatively, and it's very useful. I've not shown it here, but you can use several of these iPhone apps for various things. This is known as GonioTrans. This can be used for outcomes analysis. I use it post-operatively to take a picture under retroillumination to see if my lens is positioned correctly, and this basically app overlays the degrees on the reticule is overlaid onto the picture, and you can see whether your IOL is well positioned. You can use the Aura, which Dr. Rajesh Sinha has a lot of experience with, and maybe he will talk about it. And to conclude, I think new technologies ever improving our understanding and results from toric IOLs, and further advances will surely keep helping improve our quest for quality outcomes even more, and we are looking at good times for our patients to get better and better visual outcomes. And with that, I'll finish here. Thank you so much.